Diving deeper into faith, life, and the questions that matter. This is Beyond Sunday.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond Sunday. Pastor Jeff here, and I'm here today with Chloe Carlson. I know her pretty well. So welcome to Beyond Sunday. You're a guest today because we wanted to talk about, if you are part of Connection Point Church, then the last couple of weeks we've been talking, really in August, we've been talking about Immigrant Connection and a new thing that the Lord has brought to us. And I say that in the full weight of that statement, that I really believe this is something that the Lord has put before us. Listen, full disclosure, and Chloe can testify to this, I am guilty of chasing lots of things at various moments of my life. If something sounds interesting, I'll chase it. I'm the guy that gets projects started and gets about 80% done, and then I get bored and move on to a new project. I need a new project, and then it's years later I get back to the last 20%. Anywho, so I say that because I just want to be clear, like the immigrant ministry is really not something that in my head, other than outside of Purdue, international students, something like that, was not really something that was on my radar or something I was thinking about doing. We hadn't really talked about that here, even though we've known for many years that it's something you wanted to do, but not necessarily in the context of Connection Point Church or whatever. And so just to reiterate the story, as Alex and Sylvia came and we started the Spanish church, God kind of dropped this in our lap, and hopefully I think a little bit later we can share a little bit about our relationship with Lafayette Urban Ministry alum and how they're helping us with this. So just I know you got up in front of the church and talked, but I would love you to just share a little bit about how you got to this place of wanting to help people who are not born here, who are foreigners, immigrants, refugees, whatever. Like, where'd all that come from for you? Because Mom and I have always been missional, I would say, doing missions trips and but more going to those people versus ministering to the ones that were here. So what happened that made that happen? Because it wasn't us, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, well, I think growing up in a missional minded household definitely influenced that, because it was just kind of a topic that was always there, and we were always learning about different cultures and people, and I just always thought that was fascinating. But when I was in high school,
Homeschool people.
Yep.
Homeschool.
Yep.
Okay.
Homeschool.
No offense to regular school. Anyway,
but when I was in high school, we attended Life Church 180 in Indianapolis, and they have their congregation. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's a very large percentage that's refugees, mostly African refugees, but they've got people from all over, and they just keep growing and drawing in more groups and more people. So that was kind of the first time I came face to face with refugees in Indiana, and just the whole idea of being a refugee and what that meant, what that looked like, logistically, and the challenges that they had to overcome, the things they had to learn. And that just really touched my heart and was something that I was like, oh, I think I want to help with this. I had always wanted to do something kind of ministry or missionally related, but I also loved business and thought I wanted to be a lawyer for a while. And so I've always liked some of those more technical business type things. So I thought, if I could find a way to partner those two things, my love for cultures and different people groups, but also this like administrative side that I enjoyed, that would be super cool. And also just then being able to use those skills of connecting with people to share the gospel as well. And so that was something that I just got really excited about. So I started trying to help at Life Church 180 with the different outreaches that they did with the refugees, and
they would go into, just so we know, they did a lot of stuff in the church, but they would go into refugee communities with a trailer full of things that they needed, like
clothes,
the
bedding,
African refugees
food.
had never seen snow. Just for instance, they'd be in flip-flops in January and just didn't even know what to do about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a unique experience because I think you don't think about the fact that the mission field's in your backyard in a lot of ways. You think you have to go to those people, but in reality, they're coming here in droves all the time because the American dream is still alive and well in most places, and they want to be here, or they have to come here because they're fleeing something that's dangerous. And so they just end up in our backyard. So it was very enlightening to go into those neighborhoods and see how those people lived, and then be able to be like, oh, here's a coat and you need to wear it because it's cold and you don't want to freeze. And just being able to be that person they could ask questions to is super cool. And it's a really unique way to be able to serve people and then further the kingdom of God as well.
It's interesting because in the Bible, we often see, obviously Jesus preached the gospel, but we often see him prior to preaching the kingdom or challenging people to believe in him, we see him meeting some kind of a felt need. Mm-hmm. We would call it a felt need. So, flip-flops in January is a felt need, or not having a coat when you live in the Midwest is a felt need. Not having enough food is a felt need. Not having a shower curtain and flooding apartments on the floor below you because you didn't know you needed a shower curtain is a felt need. Yeah. Help with filling out a job application because you can't speak English, and even if you could, you're illiterate. You can't read or write is a felt need. So I think that it's really powerful. And a lot of that for us would come through our Welcome Center side.
Correct.
So talk about that a little bit. What's in your heart for that Welcome Center, whatever we end up, if we call it that or not. But.
Yeah. So I think it's important to note I think West Lafayette area, we have a lot more of an immigrant population than a refugee population. So it does look a little bit different to meet those felt needs because a lot of the internationals that we're serving are here with the university. Mm-hmm. So that looks a little bit different, but those relational needs are still there. That need for community to feel connected, to feel like they belong here in the U.S. for whatever amount of time that they stay here. A lot of them come to school and then they want to stay here after the fact. So I think it's super important that we can come alongside them and become a friend to them, a mentor, someone they can go to. A lot of international students, they spend their 4 years at Purdue or however long they stay in this area, and they never once get invited to an American's household to just be in community and to live life with them. And so I think the Welcome Center, what we want to do with that is really be able to meet that community need, and then be able to send them out to kind of connect with other people in the same boat and be like, hey, these people came alongside me. Let me introduce you, but then let's be friends. Let's foster this relationship. So I think the Welcome Center, we want to focus on that and really building that community, being able to meet some of those felt needs that maybe still exist, clothes, food, English classes, some of those things that make life more accessible and a little bit easier. But at the heart, we really want to be able to build that community and show Jesus, the love of Jesus to those people.
I think it's interesting around here, whether they're, I'll just say this, we have Purdue students every single Tuesday who come through our food pantry and get food, not because it's free, but because, they're on a very, very limited budget, some of them. But I think one thing to think about is, the immigrant population here, they're not destitute in their plight. Most of them have jobs. A lot of them have really good jobs. They're agricultural workers, or maybe they're working at the chicken factory in Delphi, or whatever, but they're working. It's not that they're destitute begging for food everywhere. So the community need, the need of English, or the need of just somebody to talk to, or sometimes it's just simply like, oh, these people actually just care that I'm here. I think is the needs that we're going to start with, and then meet the physical needs as those arise and as we see opportunity outside of the food pantry. That's an easy one.
I think it's easy to think about those physical needs and forget about the emotional and spiritual needs that they have, because I don't think I really realized what that looked like until I did an internship at Purdue, and I was working in an ESL class an English as a second language class with grad students. And I just spent a lot of time just kind of talking to them, getting to know them, learning about where they came from, why they were here. And it was just kind of shocking to me that they many of them told me, no one's ever asked me that before. Nobody's ever taken an interest in that. I don't have many friends. If I do have friends, they come from the same, like we came together.
Yeah, expats get together.
They find each other and they don't find other people outside that really care about why they're here. And most of them, like they're super passionate about what they're doing, and most of them just want somebody to talk to. And I think I just didn't realize the scope of that and that need, that hunger for a relationship until I did that internship. And I realized that these people in their late 20s are so lonely because they just don't know how to break into those groups. Have you found most
of the immigrants that you've run into want to assimilate into our culture and our society, or do they want to be separate and maintain their own, their own national identity, I guess? Like, what would you say to that?
I think it depends a little bit. A lot of them, I think, really value the culture that they come from, and they do want to maintain some of those elements, but they do very much want to be American, whatever. I mean, that looks different for everybody because
American in that context.
But be an American in the sense that they're part of the community and they're welcomed here. But I do think they want to maintain. I mean, most of them, they want to talk about food and that food culture that exists because they miss their food and the culture that surrounds that.
And food is such a different types of food. Cuisine.
Yes.
is such a cultural thing.
And a lot of them miss that. And I think they miss the community that goes with food, because that's honestly, in my opinion, the fastest way to connect with somebody is to feed them.
Well, don't you think that's a biblical concept? So often.
No, I do.
So often when Jesus wanted to connect with a group of people or someone more deep. Yeah. Some of the most profound moments with Jesus were around a table.
Yep.
I think of the road to Emmaus when they sat and had fish together and he unpacked the kingdom to them, or Jesus and Zacchaeus, he was a wee little man, but Jesus went and ate with him. And, things like that I think are profound in the scriptures. And I think they open doors for us here too, not just with immigrants, but with anyone.
Yeah.
And people don't invite people into their homes anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Not like we used to.
Yeah. And I think the best thing we can do, honestly, is invite them for a home cooked meal, or even invite them to be like, hey, teach me about what's your favorite dish that you eat at home? Like, let's figure out how to make it, and then let's share a meal together. And I think that speaks volumes to people and draws them in a way that nothing else does.
Okay. This one, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Okay. So this will be off the cuff, but
okay.
How do you think God has prepared you for this moment? Like through the course of your life, obviously you shared about 180, how God birthed, I would say, that vision for you, what you want to do. How do you think, though, through college, through the last whatever years, God has prepared you to step into this moment now? Well,
I could have used a heads up for that question.
I know, but that's all right. You're good on your feet. You get it from me.
Again, going back to how I grew up, I think that started the preparation process, because I just, you and Mom instilled in me this love for other cultures. And so it was never, a lot of people struggle to connect with people that are from outside of their culture, or just different in general. Yeah. Like they come from it doesn't matter if they're an immigrant or just a random person who has a different walk of life. But people struggle to connect with them. And for me, I just never understood that, because I just thought people are people and they have interesting stories to tell. So we might as well talk to them and learn about it. And I think that was definitely instilled in me when I was young. I always loved missions. My favorite Sundays were when missionaries came to speak and tell me what they were doing. And for a long time, I thought I'd go overseas and do that. But I just feel like the Lord, when I think it was my sophomore year of college, he gave me a word through someone else, a former missionary. And he told me that sometimes the Lord doesn't call us to a country, he calls us to a people group. And that was so profound to me. because I was really struggling. Like, why can I not pinpoint my calling? Why is there not a country? Why is there not a specific place? Because I just felt like everybody gets called to a specific place, and then that's where they go.
I'm going to Germany.
Right.
Or I'm going to
they're
Congo.
Like, yeah. And so they just know, like, that's where they're going. And I just...
You're like, I'm going to people.
Yes. So anytime anybody asked me, like, oh, you want to work with refugees and immigrants, what people group? I was like, whoever shows up at my doorstep. Like, it didn't really matter to me. And
so it's not a people group by culture, but it's a people group by sort of category of who you are.
Correct. But people always wanted to know, like, oh, specifically like Afghan refugees or specifically Congolese refugees. And that just never mattered to me. And I feel like that comes from the way I grew up and the way I thought about people. People are just people. Yeah. Like, why categorize them that way? Yeah. When we can serve all of them. But I also feel like the Lord, when I was trying to decide where to go to school, I considered some other schools besides Purdue, but when I visited, I just immediately knew, like, this is before
we were coming here.
Yeah. This was my junior year of high school. Yeah. So it wasn't even on the radar that we would end up at CPC. But I visited in July for a visit day, and I was just kind of struggling to figure out where to go to school, because I really wanted to live at home while I was in college, like, to save money. But then so it was a little bit of a struggle. So I decided to tour Purdue anyways. And when I was on the campus, I was like, oh, this is where the Lord wants me. And then it was just so cool as I figured out what to major in and all of that. The Lord just kind of started to bring me, like, international students, and I would talk to them or maybe be in their lives for a brief time, not always to be like best friends, but just to be somebody they could talk to. So I just feel like the Lord has always put me in places or positions to meet those people. Like, even the jobs I worked while I was in school, like, the international population would just kind of show up there. Yeah. And I actually, my former boss, she told me one time, she was like, before you worked for me, I never saw someone that wasn't American ever. Like, there were no international, I didn't serve any internationals. They just kind of all showed up when you got here. So I feel like the Lord just always put me in positions like that. And I think he's helped me through that and figuring out how to communicate and build relationship with those people.
This is Dad talking, but then, I saw through college a real birth of a desire to grow in leadership and to grow in organization, to grow in your ability to, put something together. And I think in lots of ways that, you've had a dream for a while to start some kind of a nonprofit doing this kind of work. And I think I saw that more refined, I guess, in birth when you started to pay attention to the leadership side of this, all this. It wasn't just a passion, something you wanted to help with, but now it became like a tangible thing that I can actually do through that process. So you talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So I minored in organizational leadership, and those were my favorite classes that I took in school. I loved my major, but my minor was my favorite thing because I loved learning the leadership side of things and the business and the organization and how the pieces fit together. I love to solve the problems, and I like to go into places, and I usually can find gaps and holes in systems, and I love fixing them. I don't know, maybe that makes me nerdy, but I just think it's fun. And, and so I just really took those classes super seriously because I wanted to be able, all of a sudden I realized like, oh, I don't have to be reliant on an organization that already exists. Like, this is something that I could probably figure out how to build if I really, really wanted to. And so I just started focusing a lot on leadership. I finally started reading the stack of nonfiction books that you've given me throughout my life that I was avoiding. It's
about time.
But I started reading them and just really liked them and saw the opportunity to grow in that. And it's really cool because when I think I always kind of had some leadership tendencies. My siblings would probably tell you I was bossy, but it's leadership skills. It's leadership skills.
Okay.
But anyway, so I think that was always there a little bit. But when I started to realize how important it was to be a good leader in order to do something like this, and to let the Lord refine that.
Well, I would
too.
say even the Lord allowed you to maybe see some not so great leadership through some of the jobs. Were you going to say that?
Yeah. No, I definitely think I saw some examples of not great leaders, and as frustrating as that was, I'm honestly really grateful that the Lord allowed that to happen, because now I'm like, oh, I shouldn't do that.
You couldn't see it at the time, though, which is so often the case when God is training us for something in the future. We don't see it in the moment.
Right. But then he did also allow me to work under some really, really excellent leaders, or introduce me to great mentors who have done some awesome things in leadership, and get to learn lessons from them as well. And so I think that has started to really define and refine like the way I think about leadership, because leadership in a parachurch ministry is different than leadership in the church. And so I think because I always had like your example for church leadership, the Lord gave me those examples of good leadership in other situations as well.
Yeah, that's really good. I think this is true for most people. If they'll look back over the different stages of their life, you'll be able to see, that God was helping me with this piece in this season and this piece in this season to put me into this place where I am today, or where he's leading me today. Yeah. And I think that's a really important lesson, not only for you, certainly I want you to have that, but really for young people that are, a lot of people that graduate college are like, I don't know what to do. And you were a little bit there.
Yes.
In some ways, like, what do I do with this degree now? And and you had a number of other options.
If you get a major in linguistics or English, you can pretty much do anything, or you can do nothing.
Yeah. Or
there's not a clear pathway.
So I think like, look, for you, for sure, looking back now, and I think if more people that are kind of moving into that next stage of life would spend some time doing that, looking back and, what are the things the Lord has been showing you and doing, and see how you can match your passions with a visional thing that actually produces something in the world, whether that's business or in your case, a nonprofit or whatever. Yeah. I think that's kind of where the secret sauce to feeling fulfilled in life.
Yeah. It was an interesting season, I guess, for 6 months, starting right before I graduated. I just was really struggling with what to do, because I felt like I had so many options. And they were all great options, but this was the one that I was really the most passionate about.
You didn't tell me that, and I want to just go through that story for a minute. Yeah. This will probably have to have a part 2 now. Sorry, but I didn't want to hire you.
Correct. I was slightly offended.
Well, you get over it. Mostly because I think as a leader you have to be super wise about working with family. You and I have always had a great relationship. I've definitely wanted to kill your brothers more than you, more times than you.
What an
honor. But I was apprehensive about that. In fact, what's weird to me is as we started talking about this in our board meetings and with our staff, I was the only one who had hesitation about you.
You wanted me to go and work under another leader for a while because just because I had always, like, you're my dad, but you've also always been my pastor.
I didn't want to be, and I still don't think it's wise for me, even in this role, to be your main, mentor or whatever. And so we're going to share about that in a minute. But I was apprehensive. I interviewed a few other people. We really did look at other options and things, and every door the Lord closed. And I remember the afternoon finally saying to you, as you're trying to decide, do I want to do this or this or this or whatever, and this wasn't really there. It was kind of below the surface. Chloe, if this was an option for you, would you do that? Which one would you do? Where does this rank in your list of 4 or 5 or whatever options that you have? And you said it'd be number 1.
Yeah.
And and in that moment, I'm like, well, then I'm the problem. And I started to just ask the Lord, do I just need to get over this because you're setting something up for Chloe? And it's not because you're my daughter. It's just that, and he says to me, and I shared this couple weeks ago, but he says to me, if Chloe wasn't your daughter, would you allow her to build this? I said, in a second. And he said, then stop it. And so I did. And the board interviewed you, came into our board meeting and shared what was in your heart and some of the things that we hope that the Lord will allow us to do. And, just at this point, we're just all systems go, and we're moving forward with our training. So let's talk a little bit about our timeline as we just get into some of the nuts and bolts and maybe some questions that I've had come to me through the last several weeks. So you and Deanne Dalton, who's been our missions director for a long time, has been one of our board members more than once, and just a great leader in our church, is going to partner with you in becoming, for the legal side.
Yes.
Because there's two sides to this. There's a welcome center side, which is the relational stuff and maybe language and maybe felt needs, that kind of a thing. That's very church based, very church ministry based. And then the other side, which is very different, is the legal side. Yep. That's the legal aid office that we will open. And for that to happen, you and Deanne have to become Department of Justice approved
accredited
reps. Accredited reps. That's what I meant. Accredited reps. So talk about that process a little bit, what you know about it. I know we don't know a ton about it, but what do you know about that?
So the timeline wise for that, it's a little bit fuzzy because it is like a self-paced kind of a deal, but it's through an organization that's accredited with the government. And we'll start that training. I believe it starts the third week of September. So we've got about a month till it starts. But it's 8 weeks. And then there's an additional training for Immigrant Connection National that they have, just to make sure that, you're feeling confident about especially the paperwork and all of that.
Because so we have DOJ protocols that we'll have to follow by law. Yeah. And then we'll have also, there's about 50 immigrant connections around the country that are either open or getting ready to open. We would be in that group. They have some other protocols that they want to make sure. So we're being dual trained, one by DOJ, by an organization that represents DOJ that does their training, and then also with Immigrant Connection. So we'll have well-rounded training. Yes,
well-rounded training. We've got the government side of things, which is just very technical, and then we have the Immigrant Connection, which is a little bit technical, but it's also getting into that like biblical based, like how does this function as a ministry, but we're still like doing everything legally. So the government training is about 8 weeks long. And then the Immigrant Connection training is about the same length, but that one is completely self-paced. So we can do it a lot faster, a lot slower than you want to. And that involves
like their main office is in Logansport, so not too far from us. Yeah. And that involves like spending some time there and shadowing their leaders, that kind of thing. Some things like that. Yep. Okay. Sitting in on some consultation, so we know kind of what a consultation would look like when we're sitting down with an immigrant family. Things like that. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the hope is that we'll have both of those trainings done by December, January. And then once we submit all of our paperwork to the government, it's about 6 to 9 months before they approve a new site where you can be doing the legal aid work. So at a minimum, we're looking at like June before we could open the legal clinic. Actually open the legal clinic side of things is June. But at most September, October of 2026. It's definitely solidly in 2026. Obviously, we pray that the government gets faster so we can open faster. Yeah. But at this point, the waiting period, it's like 6 to 9 months. Okay. But we're not reliant on the waiting period for the Welcome Center portion of things. So I think we're wanting to open that earlier, probably in the spring of 26, probably early spring, I think is what we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, we'll probably really start, once you guys finish the DOJ,
we'll really start figuring out the logistics of the Welcome Center.
And that's going to require a good volunteer base. We'll probably start small and build as we have volunteers and opportunity, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And as we figure out kind of what needs we are present, like we have an idea of what's there, but there's always things we don't needed. There's always things we don't know. Yeah. So as we get to know more people in the immigrant population and figure out what do you really like, what's really helpful for you? Yeah. Are English classes helpful? Like are these other things? What's really going to make the biggest impact for you and your experience like while you're here?
Yeah.
So I think as we figure that out, but yeah, so first focus is definitely the Department of Justice training, because we obviously want to make sure we get through that and do it well and feel confident in what we're going to be doing, because you can make or break a situation if you fill out the paperwork incorrectly.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're dedicating plenty of time to really get a solid handle on that so that we can do excellent work.
So speaking of filling out paperwork incorrectly, this kind of work, the legal stuff, because you're not a lawyer, you've not been through full legal training, neither will have Deanne, even though we're accredited with the DOJ. There really is a fairly large liability issue that could be there if we mess up somebody's life, or somebody, we don't cross a T or dot an I, and somebody, gets deported or arrested or just whatever because we messed up, not because of them, but we messed up. So let's talk just about insurance in that case, in case you and or the legal clinic are sued by somebody that we mess up. What do you know about insurance?
What do I know about insurance?
You worked at an insurance company.
I did work for an insurance company, but
I'll say go ahead.
It's fine. So I know there's insurance that we have that's provided through Immigrant Connection National. So they'll help with that liability insurance to some degree, but we'll also have an additional umbrella policy over that just to make sure all of our bases are covered. So I don't know all the details, but the insurance will cover our DOJ reps specifically, just in case they were to sue an individual, but it's also going to insure the clinic as a whole.
Yeah. My understanding is the Immigrant Connection National has sort of a blanket umbrella policy for all of their IC sites and all the DOJ reps that they pay for every year. I think we chip in some to help with that, or the site does, not the church, but the Immigrant Connection Legal Clinic. We're calling it Immigrant Connection of Greater Lafayette. That's what the official name will be for the legal aid side. But anyway, so they have that policy. Then of course we have our church insurance, but this is a good segue into the church insurance is really not going to be a factor, because we are going to start or create a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization. So the church is a 501c3 nonprofit covered under the blanket Assemblies of God policy. So we don't have our own 501c3. We're under our denominations, and that's a whole bunch of legal stuff. Don't worry about it. We're covered. We're tax exempt, and we are an official nonprofit.
All is well. But because of liability and because of the opportunity actually for funding outside of Connection Point Church through grants as well as other donors that might not be part of our church, we felt like our board and our staff, as well as some other leaders we've consulted, and it's come up a couple of times with people and questions to open this new 501c3 nonprofit. We don't know what we're going to call it yet. I'll cast just a little bit of vision for it. We're going to separate out most of our outreach style ministries. So our food pantry will now come under this nonprofit, and our family dinner ministries will come under this nonprofit. We have one at Romney Meadows, hoping in the future we can open more of those in other neighborhoods that are struggling, maybe some immigrant neighborhoods even. And then, of course, Immigrant Connection of Greater Lafayette will come under this, and any other thing that we may begin in the future that would be primarily outreach focused. If we do something in the jails, or we do something with homeless people, whatever. There's other ministries that do that we support now. But whatever the Lord leads us to do, so separating it from the church puts a layer of liability or layer of protection in from the church for the church, but also it creates an opportunity then. So you and I have been looking at Lilly grants. Eli Lilly or Lilly Foundation has massive amounts of money to give to community grants so that they can do things like this. In fact, when I looked at it, there was only one grant that was given to any kind of immigrant ministry across the whole country. Yeah, I guess the community grants don't they're not given out as much. Like people don't apply for them as often because a lot of times ministries like this that are in partnership with the church are wrapped up in the church.
Yep.
And so they don't have the opportunity to apply for something like that because they wouldn't qualify.
Yeah. Lily does they do fund some church-based things. They have what's called Center for Congregations, which does, and we have actually gotten a couple of those Center for Congregations grants, but the Lily Endowment is a whole separate deal, and it doesn't do church grants in the same way. So that's going to provide some opportunity. So it gives us really good protection. But here's the other thing it does that I really like, especially because of our relationship, the new nonprofit, whatever it will be. And our goal is to get this in place before we submit the paperwork to DOJ to become an approved site. So hopefully this fall we'll get this in place. Yeah. It will have a separate governing board made up of primarily CPC people, because we will not relinquish control of the nonprofit to, an outside source or whatever. We'll maintain that. But also the directors of this nonprofit, who all of these people will be volunteers, by the way. The directors and at least at this point, the directors and the board would all be volunteers. They will be, and I'm not at liberty yet to disclose who I've been talking to potentially be the directors of this nonprofit, but they would then also serve as sort of coaches and mentors to you, so that when if you need to complain about me, you have somebody to do that to, that's not me that can help talk you through, or you've got business questions that maybe I'm not even savvy enough to answer. Like we have that layer now in place. You're not answering to me as your boss. You would be answering to that board and to the directors of this nonprofit. And I'm very comfortable. In fact, the very first time we talked about this in our Board of Deacons meeting, that this exact thing was brought up. Because I said, how can we put a layer between you and me so that somebody else is helping with that side of it, and I can be mostly, I'm still the pastor, so I still got to be in charge, but I can mostly be dad. Yeah. And I don't have to be. Which I like that. Yeah, I do too. Because I do too. I do too. So I'm excited about that. You have thoughts on that? I mean, I'm just excited because I feel like having a director over all of that's not you. It just kind of expands our knowledge base. Like those people are going to know a lot of things that more than I don't know about different aspects of running a business or outreach or whatever. They're going to have different perspective. And so I like having voices that we trust and that we know, are followers of the Lord and are kingdom minded, but also have skill sets that you don't have and I don't have. Yeah. And but will help you grow. And they're able to help me, but they're also able to give different perspectives than maybe how you might think about something. Yeah, totally. So I'm excited about that from that perspective. And then also just that you're still dad, a little less boss, and mostly just dad. Yeah, and I'll be boss when I have to be, obviously, but I think that extra layer in there is going to be really positive for us. So we're pretty excited about that, and we're working on now putting together. Our board is talking about this, just a small task force to get together and work on the governance. We'll have to do articles of incorporation, some of the legal things to be in place, and then Immigrant Connection itself. Some of those. So here's how funding would work. Some of those ministries we fund. The food pantry, Romney Meadows, those kinds of things. So we would continue to do that. We would we will treat this nonprofit as a community kingdom builder, community partner, just like we do LUM or Lafayette Housing, or Bravely or whatever. And so it'll just be a very high level partner where we're transferring money, because it'll have its own bank accounts. It'll be its own deal. We'll be, supporting it monthly financially through Kingdom Builders to support Romney Meadows. And so how is Immigrant Connection funded? How is Immigrant Connection? How do we pay the bills for the legal side? 'Cause you'll start part-time and then grow. And again, Immigrant Connection's goal is for there to be full-time DOJ reps who are working, 3, 4, 5 days a week with clients. So how does that all get funded in Immigrant Connection? Yeah. So the initial overhead for Immigrant Connection is very small. It's just space.
It's mostly just space to actually do the work. But then obviously looking beyond that, we don't want to just have volunteer DOJ reps forever. We would like to compensate them. And
it's hard work.
Yes. It's
The
very,
workers
very,
worthy of their hire.
very, very taxing, very detailed. So obviously we want to be able to pay them. So the way that Immigrant Connection structures things, you charge the government fees, whatever those are required.
What the government charges to submit the paperwork.
Yeah. So like
those are kind of set.
For a piece of, like for some paperwork, it might be like $1,400 that the government requires or so. I just made that up, but
no, I think that's right. For the permanent residency application, it's like $1,400.
There's like set amounts that the government requires. So we'll obviously,
and we have nothing to do with that. That's just is.
We'll obviously charge that fee because that is a government fee that we have no control over. But then the way the Immigrant Connection is set up on top of that, you do charge like a clinic fee essentially for your services in helping them fill out all of that paperwork. And that it's scaled because it is a little bit based on like where you're located and things like that. But
and there's a sliding scale. If someone just can't afford it, then we're not going to turn them away.
Right.
There'll just be a sliding scale.
Right. Yeah. Sliding scale. There's different fees for the different types of applications that they might be submitting. But those costs end up being about 10% of what a lawyer would cost. So if they were to go and hire an immigration lawyer, we're going to charge about 10% of what the lawyer would charge for that.
So I'll give you an example. I have been talking to one of our Purdue families, and they're eligible now for kind of a more permanent resident, which opens them up to better jobs or whatever. But they have to go through this process, even though they're Purdue students. So he got a quote from his lawyer, and it was to do. There's 5 of them in their family. For this to happen for them, it's $2,000 per person. Yeah. So it's that's not the government fees. No. That's the lawyer fee. Lawyer's fees, It's so it'd be about $10,000 for them to do the same paperwork. We would be able to do that entire family for $1,000. Yeah. So that's a massive savings.
Yes.
For these people.
And when you think about that, because a lot of the times before they've got that permanent residency, they do have jobs, but they're getting paid a lot less than what they could make if they did have residency. And so when you think about how $1,000 versus $10,000, like that is helping them
big time
lifestyle wise to support their family and still be able to work towards
$10,000
getting a better job. Like if you can't get a better job, how are you going to pay the $10,000?
And in fact, like in this case, because of how they're here legally, but how they're here, they're not allowed to work outside of, like, he works at Purdue as a researcher,
outside of the university.
His spouse is not allowed to even get a job. So once they have this change in status, she could, and that helps her family massively because they're living on very, very little income. So it's a huge blessing and benefit. So it's sustained by fees.
So it's sustained by fees, and then just based on how many clients we're able to serve. So obviously the more clients we serve, the more money we make, and then that money goes straight back into the nonprofit to pay salaries and then cover any fees or anything like that we may need to pay, like to Immigrant Connection National or anything like that.
They require, it's about $5,000 a year that we continually pay to them over the course of the year to help with insurance and help. Like there's some calendar stuff. There's some things they provide that benefits that the site gets for that, but that's kind of the ongoing costs.
But it's also that we're also able to use that money for any like additional training that we may want to do, or I know like there's conferences that are hosted about like immigration policy changes if we ever wanted to be able to go participate in those, or to help buy curriculum for the Welcome Center for different classes we might offer. Those fees are what's going to pay for that.
And this is one of the things I love about joining forces with an established legal clinic, Immigrant Connection, legal clinic ministry. We have a playbook. We're not reinventing this from like nothing and trying to navigate it ourselves, but they're guiding us all while we will run independent. They're not, other than they're helping us a little bit, but they're not telling us how we should advertise and how we should bring, whatever. But we have a playbook, and we don't have to like reinvent the wheel and try to figure this out.
They give us the basics, and then they kind of let us run with it, which
it's a lot of flexibility.
It's awesome. It's just to have that peace of mind that we've got this like safety net almost of how to do it here initially, and then we can adjust as.
Like I feel like a significant portion of our clients could be international students who are transitioning to jobs after they graduate and needing a permanent residency or maybe they get married and they need an
adjustment
their
of
spouse,
status.
they need adjustment of status. All those are different things that the government requires them to walk through with immigration. So we can do all those services, or we'll be able to do all those services for them.
Yeah.
So the only other clinic around here in Tippecanoe County or any surrounding county is Lafayette Urban Ministry, LUM. One of our ministry partners has a very small legal clinic right now that's operating.
Yeah.
So you're actually working there right now. You took a job there as Wes Tillett, their director, the director of LUM, was very gracious to offer you this job to come and before we open, begin to learn and kind of see how they're not an Immigrant Connection. They're just kind of their own thing.
Yeah. They're fully accredited through the government. They just are not connected to the Immigrant Connection network.
They've done it themselves. And so kind of some backstory here. Several months ago, that's okay. So immigrant ministry is not really LUM's mission. LUM's mission is homelessness and people that are beaten down and need financial help, need a leg up. It's not immigrant. They opened this clinic several years ago because there was really nothing else, no other options for immigrants. They saw the need. And right now they serve about 200 clients is my understanding, maybe families, but about 200 families that they're serving with different things, changes of status, marriage, whatever. Yep. So Wes began to pray about, we need to get out of the immigration office because it's not our mission. We're distracted. And I get that.
Kind of wanting to recenter, realign with
what we're here to do.
They were there to do.
So as he prayed that, he's been friends with the guy who runs Immigrant Connection just because they were doing work. And so he said that to him. At the same moment, I reached out to him particularly about Alex and Sylvia, but then we got to talking about this, and Zach, who runs Immigrant Connection, just sort of saw a match made in heaven. I've got a church that's interested in opening a legal aid clinic. I've got a legal aid clinic that really wants to get out of the immigrant clinic because it's not their mission. Man, maybe if we could marry them together, there'd be a win here. And so that's actually what we're doing. And we are going to inherit the clients from LUM, about 200 families that LUM is serving. We are going to, from the beginning, inherit those clients and take over those cases. If they want to sign up with us, they don't have to. They can do something else. But we're going to be doing some PR work with them and reaching out to them, or you are, not me. I should say you, to begin bringing them in. But and LUM then when we open, we'll close that clinic and we'll be the Immigrant Connection Greater Lafayette will be the only legal aid clinic here in the surrounding counties. So that's a kind of cool thing. I haven't been able to share that. We've known about it, but I haven't been able to share it because of the board and at LUM needed to get all their ducks in a row. In fact, the LUM employees have not even known about it, but they'll know about it by the broadcasting of this podcast. So it's a great thing for us because it gives us a leg up as we get going.
We'll kind of usher that transition, and then it kind of helps us have that initial client base to go from there.
So the other thing LUM is going to do is they have a number of donors who specifically donate to the legal aid office. And our goal, as we've talked with Wes, who's a phenomenal human, by the way, as we've talked with Wes, is to cultivate relationship with them for this. He's going to ask them to shift their giving away from LUM for the Immigrant Connection or for the Immigrant Office and into Immigrant Connection next year. So we're hoping that not only will we inherit clients, but we'll also inherit potentially some outside CPC donors who would financially begin to support this mission right off the bat. So those are huge wins, I think, for us. So, and a real indicator that the Lord is with us.
And the hope is that we'll be able to maintain those donors, but then also build off the connections that we have to hopefully get some more support from outside CPC. Obviously, the clinic can be self-sustaining once the client base is built up, but it's always helpful to have those donors and those people that are passionate come alongside you and support you financially in that way too. So the hope is to foster those relationships well.
Yeah, both with donors and then with our clients as well, and serve them well, organized. Yep. You're very organized. I'm excited about that. It should be fun. Last thing, before we get off this thing, on probably part 2, because this is long. But so we've had some questions about illegal immigration, and that's a hot topic in our culture. It's become very divisive. Divisive? However you say it. Divisive? I think you can say it both ways. Anyway, Zach asked ChatGPT if I can say that both ways.
They don't know I'm here, Jeff.
Sorry. Very divisive. A lot of it right now is, putting people over, or putting politics over people. And it doesn't matter. I have opinions about immigration, illegal immigration. I'm sure everyone does. So as far as an illegal immigrant, we would be very limited on the scope with which we could help an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So what are those? What are there's basically 3. Yeah. What would those be?
So essentially our options when it comes to, so the legal clinic can only serve immigrants who at least came here legally. They may have overstayed their visa or something like that, but they at least initially came legally. We can serve them. If they came illegally,
and we're talking like border jumpers or whatever.
Like from the get-go, they've never had paperwork, like nothing.
Yes.
We're not able to serve them in the legal clinic. They would have to leave the country and come back in some legal way. They would have to find another pathway to get back in. Yeah. But we can serve them in our welcome center, obviously, with building relationship with those people, ESL classes, things like that. But we're not able to help them on the legal side of things.
We have to follow the law.
Yes.
We're required to follow whatever immigration law is. And
Correct.
Apparently it changes all the time.
It's always changing.
So again, the only illegal immigrants we could help in the legal clinic are those, and this would be true even at the border, asylum seekers. Correct. If someone's here and they came across the border and somehow they got to Indiana, but they have an asylum claim, and we can only help them if it's a legitimate asylum claim.
We can help them if we can prove that they were fleeing something.
Which they would have to do at the border or anywhere else too, to claim asylum. We can help in some cases if they're fleeing violence in their country, like if someone came from Syria, I don't know how they get here, but if somebody came illegally somehow from Syria, where they're a Christian, where Christians are just being absolutely brutalized, and they're fleeing religious violence or something like that, or sometimes South America cartel violence. There maybe is a pathway, and I want to say maybe because it's
not
really
always
hard to find one. Really hard to find one, but that's possible. And then the only other one is like if let's just say, somebody fell in love with an illegal a border jumper and got married, and they were a U.S. citizen.
We have family pathways.
There's a family
that
pathway for somebody.
Yeah. Or even like if a kid came and they're wanting their parents to come join them, or we're able to help with things like that with those family-based pathways. And there's 100 million different ways.
There's a lot of ways
to do that. But
the scope even for family pathways for someone who came illegally, fully illegal, is very limited. So it's very, very limited. There are a few caveats, but not very many.
It's very case by case basis. And unfortunately, in a lot of those situations, though, there's going to be a lot of times when we're not able to help them.
So I want to say this, we'll offer an initial consultation, and we will literally meet with any immigrant. We won't, and the leading question isn't, are you illegal or legal? The leading question is, come on and tell me your story. That's the leading question. Through that this is on the legal side. Through that consultation, we'll be able to discern if we have pathway for them. And if we do, then we can help them. We sign them up and help them. If we do not, we can refer them to immigration lawyers. We can refer them to government help, whatever, if there's something that can be done.
Well, and going back to LUM, they have built a lot of connections with lawyers or just other organizations that are able to help with other situations like that. And so we'll be able to maintain those relationships as well to help refer people in the right direction.
Good. So we'll have to discern that in a consultation. Yeah. And you can't know that unless you sit down and talk to somebody. So we'll never lead with the assumption that somebody's legal or illegal. That is not the assumption. The assumption is they're a person.
Yes.
We need to find out what could be.
Yep.
Okay. But in the Welcome Center, we're not even asking if they're legal or illegal. Yeah. That is not even on the radar. And here's why. And I know this is a political thing, but I'm saying this as a spiritual leader. Jesus doesn't care. Yeah. And on one hand, I'm like, I get it. Somebody who came here illegally broke the law. Did they sin? I mean, you're supposed to obey the law. So is there sin in that? Sure. Is there forgiveness for that? Yes. We can't change the law. We can't make it legal or illegal for somebody to come. I am all for pulling violent criminals off the street, whether they're legal or illegal. I don't care. I don't want them in society. But somebody who comes here illegally or legally in need of the love of Jesus and community and the things that the body of Christ has always offered, we should not turn them away as the people of God. Yeah. We should never turn people away, regardless of our politics. And our politics, I think, need to be left to the side of a believer. And listen, some people will interpret this, well, you're just a liberal. Listen, I'm about as conservative, I'm about as conservative as you can be generally. But and I would say probably several years ago, I may have had a different opinion on this, but now in my life, it's like, if people need Jesus, I don't really care how they got here. I don't really care how they got here. I don't really care what it was that drove them here or whether they came across the river or whatever. I don't feel like that's the important thing. And I don't think when we stand before God, the Lord's gonna, say to us, well, I'm really glad you didn't help those illegals. I'm really glad that you held the line there. You loved all the other people, but man, you really held the kingdom ideal by pushing those illegals aside. I don't think that's going to be his view. Our job is to love, care, and serve anyone that we see. In fact, Jesus said, I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. And I didn't come for those who are well. I came for the sick. I came for those who are not healthy. And when I think about people in our society, those kinds of people, especially right now in the political climate that we're in, this is where the church needs to step into the fray and step into the gap and be biblical kingdom people before we are political. Yeah. And I pray and hope that we will allow people that might struggle with that. And I want to be sensitive to be the people that will struggle with that. So I'm not angry if you're like wrestling in your soul. I want you, though, to get in the room and hear from Jesus. Let the Holy Spirit tell you what God thinks. And I'm praying the same thing. Because if I'm wrong, I want the Holy Spirit to tell me I'm wrong. And I want to hear it from the Lord. I think he loves people. God loves the world. He loves cultures. He loves the people of the world. So if they're here, let's reach them. Let's show them God's love. Let's help them in practical things. Let's not cast them aside because of where they come from, what they look like, what language they speak, whatever. I think that is not a kingdom principle. You got anything to say about that?
I mean, I just think it's important to remember that they're human, they're people, they're made in God's image, they're loved by him. And I think it's really hard for people to put aside politics, especially right now. But I think in this situation, it's just important to remember that if they were any other person, you wouldn't care about their legal status. You would, just get to know them. Like if you love Jesus and love people, you would just want to get to know them so that you could share the gospel. And I think it's important to remember that they're worthy of that regardless of why they're here on the political spectrum.
I could see someone saying like, well, when we bring them in and accept them, if you will, we're endorsing, their sin of crossing the border illegally or whatever. And I'm like, I would say to them, well, we welcome in liars and we love liars even before they stop lying, or we welcome in adulterers. We don't endorse their sin. Mm-hmm. We don't say, hey, that's okay that you look at porn, or it's okay that you're sleeping with your wife or with someone who's not your wife, or we don't endorse that, but we still welcome them in and try to show them God's love so that they can be transformed. Yeah. And I would say the same is true here. Everyone has sin. People are going to people. people are going to people. Sin's going to sin in our life. So we don't endorse the sin. We embrace the person though and love them, and we deal with the sin as it's there. Mm-hmm. And here's what I'll tell you about people, because I know people pretty well. Crossing the border illegally will be the least of most people's sins. It would be the least of most people's sins, not the greatest. Mm-hmm. So I think we just need to be super careful. Like the woman caught in adultery, and Jesus said, whoever's got the first sin, you cast the first stone. Whoever's got the most sin, you cast the first stone. Whoever's sinless, you cast the first stone. And I think we should be careful. So I want to ask our church and anybody really that's thinking about this, let's be careful about it. Let's not endorse sin. Let's not endorse illegal things. That's not what we're here to do. We're not here to do that. We think you should obey the law of the land, mm-hmm. right? I speed too much, but that's not obeying the law of the land. But I think we should ask people to do that. But I think it's not our job to create laws. It's not our job to do that. Our job is to care for people and love people and help them find redemption mm-hmm. in Jesus. So this is an opportunity to do that for a segment of our population that is currently being set aside and cast aside. Mm-hmm. And we can do better. The kingdom of God has to do better than the government and the culture. We cannot let culture influence the kingdom. The kingdom has to be the kingdom. So let's do that together. Let's let the Holy Spirit speak to us. If you're struggling with it, I get it. Not mad at you. But let's let the Holy Spirit begin to speak to our hearts and share with us the attitude he would like us to have towards people, all people of any creed, color, nation, or tribe. And we'll see what the Lord wants to do. You got anything else to say? I'll give you the last word.
I just want to invite you to join us on this journey. That's a good idea. And I want to invite you first and foremost to join us in prayer for the whole thing. Just every detail that we would have, great. I'm forgetting the word, but I
don't know what word you're looking for.
Just that the government would be gracious to us and favor.
We want favor.
That's favor.
That's the word.
Pray for favor with the government, with the transition donors, the clients
with you
that
and
transition.
Deanne's brains as you absorb legal things.
Yes. Yeah. All of the things, the education part, everything. But then also like if you feel like the Lord is kind of pulling on your heart to join us in a practical way too and serve, whatever that looks like let's have a conversation and see how you can serve with us.
And those opportunities will be a few months in coming.
Right.
The one thing you mentioned, is we do want to start a prayer task force. We want a group of people mm-hmm. that will just kind of regularly, starting even now, begin praying for that. So if you're interested in being part of that prayer task force, I know Deanne would like to curate that and maybe send out some prayer points as you guys go mm-hmm. through the training and then as we submit documents, whatever. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Deanne or Chloe, ddalton@connectionpointchurch.org or ccarlson@connectionpointchurch.org.
Super easy.
They've got emails, or maybe email both of them or catch them on a Sunday. That's fine too. Yep. I'm sure in a coming Sunday we'll get a table up on Main Street and you can check in there and sign up, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But we certainly covet your prayers right now and ask the Lord to help us with this. And then when the practical opportunity comes, there'll be an obvious way for you to jump in and be a part. And we've had a lot of people say that, man, I can't wait to be part of this.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about
really
that.
Thankful for the positive outlook that people have had and the positive things we've heard. Amen. And people are really excited. So that's been a blessing.
And
see
again,
that.
I'll reiterate, if you have concerns or questions and things that you would like an opportunity to chat through, just reach out. Always happy to sit down and talk to people and help them through some thoughts. Already done that a couple of times and happy to do it again. So if that's you, shoot me an email, Pastor Jeff at connectionpointchurch.org. Man, let's chat through it. And we're family. We're part of the kingdom together. So we win together and we succeed together. We lose together. We mourn with those who mourn, but we rejoice with those who rejoice. So let's do this thing together. Hey, I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Catch you next time. We'll be back with another episode of Beyond Sunday. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.